It always looks ordinary at first. A man who wears his ring, who has a family, who has built a life that appears stable. He wakes up every morning, goes to work, comes back home, shares dinner, and repeats the cycle. To the outside world, he seems reliable, composed, and committed. Yet deep inside, a pressure begins to grow. It is not visible to everyone, but it is felt by him like a quiet storm. He begins to notice himself staring longer than he should, feeling restless in conversations that used to be enough, searching for meaning in places he once ignored. And then comes the moment Carl Jung would describe as the unconscious, refusing to stay buried. The day the married man snaps, Jung believed that beneath every persona, the mask we show to the world, lives the shadow, the part of ourselves we suppress, deny, or hide. For a married man, the persona is clear: husband, provider, father, loyal partner. He wears this identity like armor, but in the shadow lie his unmet desires, his regrets, his hunger for freedom, and his fear of being trapped. For years he may manage it, covering it with routines and obligations. Yet the shadow does not disappear. It waits, and the longer it waits, the more violent its eruption can be. When a man snaps, it is rarely about the situation in front of him. It is the accumulation of years, of swallowed words, of moments where he betrayed his own authenticity just to keep peace. He tells himself he is fine. He tells others everything is normal. But late at night, when silence surrounds him, he feels the split inside. Part of him belongs to the marriage, but another part longs for something unnamed. This is the psychological fracture Jung studied so carefully, the moment when the unconscious refuses to stay hidden, and erupts through behavior, through anger, through desire, through actions he himself cannot fully explain. Sometimes it shows up in sudden coldness. He stops engaging, stops trying, stops seeing his partner as he once did. Sometimes it shows up as rebellion. He seeks another woman, not always out of love, but out of desperation to feel alive again. Sometimes it is a collapse into silence, where he withdraws so deeply that his presence becomes only physical, never emotional. And sometimes it is an explosion, an affair, a confession, a breakdown that shocks everyone around him. To the outside world it feels sudden. To his unconscious, it has been waiting for years. Jung would say this is the danger of living only through the persona. When a man identifies too strongly with his role as husband or provider, he neglects his inner life. He does not listen to his own longings, his fears, his creativity, his shadow. And because the psyche demands wholeness, what is ignored eventually fights for release. The married man who snaps is not only breaking from his partner, he is breaking from the lie he told himself, that he could silence his inner world forever. Think about how this begins quietly. A moment of irritation he cannot explain. A glance at another woman that lingers too long. A secret resentment when his partner asks for something small. These are the whispers of the shadow. They grow louder each time he refuses to face them. And eventually, the day arrives when he cannot contain them anymore. He erupts, sometimes destroying what he has built, sometimes wounding the ones closest to him, sometimes wounding himself. The tragedy is that this moment could have been prevented. If he had faced his inner conflicts earlier, if he had spoken his truth, if he had admitted his fears, he might have integrated his shadow instead of letting it dominate him. But society rarely allows men to do this. They are told to be strong, reliable, unshakable. They are told to sacrifice their needs for duty, and so they play the role until the role consumes them. When they snap, it is not only the collapse of a marriage, it is the collapse of a false self. The women who find themselves caught in this storm often ask the same question: why now? Why did he change so suddenly? But Jung would remind us that nothing in the psyche happens suddenly. The eruption may look instant, but the roots are deep. The unconscious has been preparing this moment for years. The married man who snaps has been carrying two lives inside him, the life he shows and the life he hides. The day he snaps is simply the day the hidden life breaks through. There is a haunting pattern in these stories. A man may claim he loves his wife, may insist he is loyal, may believe he has everything he needs. But beneath the surface, there is a restlessness, a hunger for something undefined. It may be freedom, it may be passion, it may be recognition. Of his shadow, he does not always know. And that confusion drives him toward behaviors that shock even himself. He becomes a stranger in his own home, a mystery to his own heart. Carl Jung once observed that what we fail to make conscious will appear in our lives as fate. For the married man, his unspoken fears and denied desires return to him as crisis. The day he snaps is the day fate arrives, not because destiny chose it, but because he refused to face it sooner. The eruption is not punishment. It is the psyche demanding wholeness. It is the unconscious breaking through the walls he built around himself, and once it happens, nothing is the same again. Before we go further, if you've ever felt caught in repeating patterns of love and desire, the Jung method can help you see them clearly. The link is in the first comment. The story of the married man snapping is not complete until we look at what follows. The eruption is shocking, but it is only the surface of something much deeper. When a man breaks away from the mask he has worn for years, when the unconscious rises with more force than he can contain, what remains is a life in fragments. The vows he made, the role he played, the stability he pretended to hold, all of these lie scattered around him like broken glass. And yet Jung would say that within this destruction lies the possibility of rebirth. The day the married man snaps is not only a collapse, it is an initiation into a truth he has avoided his whole life. The fourth truth is devotion. Attraction is quick, unstable, and restless. Devotion is steady, transforming, and deeply human. A married man can be distracted by beauty, by novelty, by the surface shine of desire, but his eyes do not stay where there is only attraction. They stay where devotion awakens. Devotion is not commanded, it cannot be forced, and it does not grow from manipulation. It is inspired by authenticity, by strength, and by dignity. A woman who embodies her own worth without apology becomes magnetic, not because she demands attention, but because she already carries gravity within her. He feels pulled toward her, not because she asks for it, but because she represents something he cannot find anywhere else. For the married man who snaps, devotion is the missing piece. He realizes too late that admiration for his partner may have turned into routine, that duty has replaced passion, that the rituals of marriage have dulled his eyes. But when devotion is awakened, it revives him. Jung believed that love transforms only when it calls a man upward, when it demands that he expand into his better self. Devotion is this fire. It does not allow him to remain small. It pushes him to rise, to grow, to live in truth rather than illusion. And when a man feels this, his eyes change. They are no longer restless. They steady, because they recognize that here is a presence that enlarges his life rather than shrinking it. Devotion reveals itself in the smallest details, in the way you speak your truth instead of hiding it, in the way you forgive without erasing the lesson, in the way you protect your dignity even when it costs you comfort. Each act tells him that love with you is not shallow but deep, not fragile but enduring. And once he drinks from this depth, he cannot quench his thirst elsewhere. Even in absence, the devotion spark burns. It whispers to him in silence. It follows him in his thoughts. It binds his eyes to you not through force, but through transformation. Because devotion is not about being desired for a moment. It is about being remembered forever. The fifth truth is mystery. Mystery is the oxygen of desire. Without it, even passion suffocates. A married man may promise loyalty, may maintain the routines of a committed life, but when every part of his partner is predictable, his gaze begins to wander. Not because she is unworthy, but because the soul longs for wonder. Mystery keeps desire alive. It reminds him that there is always more to see, always more to know, always more to discover. Mystery is not playing games or hiding yourself out of fear. It is the expression of a woman who continues to unfold, who remains a story in progress. A mysterious woman is not unknowable. She is inexhaustible. She surprises herself first, by growing, by learning, by investing in her passions and her inner world, and by doing so, she surprises him too. Jung compared the unconscious to an endless sea of archetypes and symbols. When you live connected to your unconscious, you carry that same infinity within you. A man senses it, even if he cannot name it. He looks into your presence and realizes he cannot fully capture you, and that realization binds his eyes more strongly than beauty ever could. Think of music. A song without silence is not music at all, it is noise. In the same way, love without space collapses into suffocation. Mystery is the pause that allows desire to breathe. It is the silence that makes intimacy sing. When you do not rush to reveal everything, When you keep parts of your inner life sacred, you become a world he longs to explore. A woman of mystery is not a finished book. She is a library. She is not a shallow pond. She is an ocean. And no man ever tires of returning to the ocean, because each day the waves are new. Each day the depths are unexplored. For the married man who snaps, the absence of mystery is often what suffocated him. He buried his own shadow, and in doing so, he expected his partner to remain fixed, static, and predictable. But when mystery is alive, his gaze is not lost to boredom. It is anchored by curiosity. He realizes that no matter how long he looks, there is more to see. Mystery does not distance him. It draws him closer, because it keeps the journey alive. The sixth truth is wholeness, the union of light and shadow. Perfection can impress, but it cannot hold a gaze. It is admired for a moment, but soon forgotten. Wholeness is what endures. A man's eyes remain not on the flawless image, but on the living soul that dares to be both radiant and wounded, both strong and vulnerable, both joyful and broken. Jung taught that the shadow is not our enemy but our hidden ally. To deny it is to live half a life. To embrace it is to live whole. When you allow both your light and your shadow to breathe, you become real. You stop hiding. And in doing so, you invite him to stop hiding. The married man who snaps often does so because he tried to live in perfection. He wanted to be the flawless husband, the reliable provider, the unshakable man. But in denying his own fears and wounds, he created a mask, and masks always crack. When you live whole, you offer him something he has never known, the permission to be human. You admit mistakes. You apologize when you are wrong. You share your past without shame. You show your scars not as weakness but as truth. And in your wholeness, he sees possibility. He sees that love does not require perfection. It requires presence. Think of the difference between a museum and a home. A museum is perfect, polished, untouched, but no one lives there. A home has scratches on the table, fingerprints on the glass, laughter echoing through imperfect walls. And yet, it is the home, not the museum, that holds the heart. Wholeness is home. It is where his gaze rests, not out of duty, not out of fear, but out of peace. Once he finds this, his eyes stop searching, because nothing else compares to the feeling of belonging where he can be whole. These final truths complete the circle. Devotion steadies his eyes, mystery keeps them alive, and wholeness gives them rest. Together with presence, absence, and the mirror, they form the six forces that bind vision to soul. Jung's most dangerous truth is not that men snap, but that all of us snap when we deny the unconscious too long. The eruption of the married man is only one example of what happens when shadow is buried, but the lesson is universal. We cannot silence what lives inside us forever. Eventually it will speak, and if we do not listen, it will shout. And so the story closes where it began, with the eyes. A man may look at many things, but his eyes stay only where he feels alive, transformed, and whole. The day the married man snaps is a warning, but it is also a mirror. It shows us that attraction is fragile, devotion is rare, mystery is vital, and wholeness is everything. Do this, and his gaze does not only fall on you, it remains, because it has nowhere else to go.